U.S. with regard to this latest incident that's taking place yet again in Iran. Should that happen, we will bring that to you live right here on the Live Zone. Meanwhile, as coverage begins to ramp up around the 2026 election cycle, one question keeps coming up. Why do Republicans consistently underperform in so-called midterms, and what would it actually take to fix it? Well, my next guest is going to discuss just that. Mr. James Dickson, a Michigan-based journalist, political commentator, former New York Post swing state reporter, and founder of the Make Politics Local Again movement, now joins us right here on the Live Zone. Mr. Dickson, we truly appreciate your time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
But of course, and so you argue, sir, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Republicans don't have a persuasion problem, but they have a participation problem. Oh, do tell.
Absolutely. And so the problem with the Republican movement is you have a lot of people who only show up to vote every 4 years. But the political calendar goes obviously year round. But also, there's these elections. The media likes to call them midterms. But in states like Michigan and 35 other states, the governor's office is going to be on the ballot. And so that's more like a final exam. And so my thesis is that if we talk about what's happening on the ground in the places we live, then you can make the case for change. If you get caught trying to justify what's happening in Washington, things could go sideways very quickly.
Yeah, this is yet again really interesting. One of the other interesting parts about all of this is that by framing elections as quote unquote midterms, perhaps voters are conditioned to treat them as optional. But hey, aren't we all supposed to get out and cast our vote?
We are, and it's the dirty little secret in politics that, outside of President Trump, who brought in so many new people into politics, low turnout is the health of the state, and especially of existing power. I'm seeing this right now in Michigan. Across Michigan, a lot of communities have millages, property tax increases that they're asking for on the May 5th ballot. Now, why would you put something on May 5th ballot? In the hopes of catching people slipping. And so if we can understand that politics is a year in, year out, you got to watch the calendar, get on the permanent absentee ballot list, and just take it seriously, the Democrats won't have a next move to match it because we have all the upside.
Yeah, one of the new terms that I find to be very interesting happens to be double haters. And these are the folks that they don't like Republicans and they don't like Democrats. And so I guess you can call them somewhat independents. However, in this case, we know that Democrats consistently outperform in turnout in the ground game. If you happen to be a Dem, you're probably all smiles after hearing that.
Not necessarily in Michigan. So in Michigan, we have a unique tradition where we have term limits for the governor. And so every 8 years, we tend to trade the governor's office back and forth between parties. You have to go back to the 60s to find a governor who followed one of their own party. That means that Michigan Republicans are due this time. And so to use the midterm phrase is to speak a language of losing that's associated with 90% failure rates, as opposed to leaning into Michigan history, which says we could do quite well if we just participate.
Yeah, participation is key, as they say. Also, the 10-voter rule, do tell.
Absolutely. When I started my speaking tour across Michigan, I said, I call it the Dickson Declaration. If you can get 10 Republicans in a room, I will come speak to them. My friend Lance Griffin has a similar idea, 10x votes. And basically the idea is that for every person you see, there's 10 friends or 10 family members behind them that you don't see that person has influence on. And so if we call our networks and ask them to show up for themselves and show up for us, turnout will go up, and Michigan will reflect our values, not other people's values.
We'll end with this, sir, and that is all things with regard to Michigan being the proving ground. And I know we've touched on it a lot, but I'm hoping you can elaborate.
Absolutely. Michigan was a swing state in 2024. It typically is in presidential races. So, and we also have the U.S. Senate race in Michigan. And so we're a place where the whole world is watching. And so if we can show that we're not bound to midterms and national narratives, that the people of our state decided that they were going to do what was best for our state, which is elect sane leadership, that could be a model elsewhere.
Well, a lot of us fought for the right to actually be able to cast a vote. Let's hope well, we all exercise that right to do just that. Yet again, we have been speaking with Mr. James Dickson. He is a Michigan-based journalist, political commentator, former New York Post swing state reporter, and founder of the Make Politics Local Again movement. James, we truly appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, folks, yet again, still following this developing story out of Iran, where one of two crew members of a U.S. fighter jet that was shot down over Iran was located and rescued by U.S. Special Forces. We have now confirmed that. The search for the second is still ongoing. An Israeli official told a second source with knowledge of the situation, reporting that to Axios just minutes ago.